solve the problem of insider threat. We, as an Indian by design, we trust everybody, and trust is the solid grounding in a large organization or a small organization. 99.99% people are trustworthy, and we trust each one of them. And always there will be some incident which breaks the trust, and at large mostly it remains unreported in the public domain. Insider threat is not new. It's an old domain. Even during the World War time, the spionage used to happen, and there used to be cross intelligence people, those who used to migrate to other country. So on the cyber spionage front, it was there for a long way. Let's talk about the agenda of today. We'll cover threat landscape, what exactly it is, on cybersecurity front, what are the challenges we face today. We'll also talk about some of the news headlines which I hit on insider threat in the last 4 to 5 years time, just a small summary of it, make a storytelling so that you can understand and appreciate what the problem is and how this problem has actually resulted into larger issues across the globe. We should also talk about some academic aspect of insider threat actors. Who are they and what are the risks they can pose? And as we are talking about insider, who is a person and who can be a resource, is there any way to decode the behaviors, and can we do the predictive modelings on the Jekyll-Hyde type of personality that individual has? We'll also talk about something, what is insider myth, and why insider threat is not a regular strategy within the corporate organizations. And finally, we'll talk about insider threat detections, and we'll also talk about some of the models which might have some mathematical component, but we'll try to make it as simple as possible. And finally, I'll talk about a specific patented framework that I have with me on the control matrix. We'll just talk a little bit about it. We'll try to give you as much as possible the lesson learned in last 25 years with me and my area of specialization in insider threat. With that, I'll start. I've already been introduced, so we'll just skip this page and we'll go to the threat landscape. In the last 4 to 5 years time, the cybersecurity and attack vectors has really gone beyond proportion. As I speak, a report by Gartner, 50% of world's netizens' identity has been compromised. Means their name, their address, their cell number, their SSN number, their PAN card, their bank account number. We're talking about 50% of the world netizen. That's definitely an area of concern. And many of them have been compromised because of insiders. The complex and connected infrastructure security has really grown up substantially in the last 4 to 5 years time. Many perimeter devices to protect the organization against external threat has been put into place. In the last 2 years, 3 years time, we have also seen the deployment of security incident and event management tools, which is really entering into the data center of many big companies. The dynamic threat surface area, threat surface area is is like a amoeba. There is no shape and size of it. It changes every time. So it's very difficult to comprehend how the threat surface looks like, and that's a challenge. And the vulnerabilities which is being detected every now and then, which is really taking a toll. On top of it, the attacks have become far more complex and too little time to remediate, because unlike 5 years back when a 0-day vulnerability was detected, a particular type of attack vector has taken place. There used to be an opportunity to remediate things for 90 days to 45 days time to 180 days time. Now the day the 0 day is found, within 30 days you have got multiple attacks. So there is no real time to respond. It has to be as quick as possible. Very interestingly, most of the attack that we have seen in the past and which gets published in the newspaper, it talks about 4 or 5 typical type of groups, those who do the hackings. So there are groups, the very smart kiddies and hackers. They learn before they hit their college. And they are the one, they do it passionately to learn their art, hone their skills, and finally, make the cyber attacks. The second group is hacktivists. They are now nowhere. People, very good hackers, good hacking backgrounds, and they join hand together from across the globe. In a connected world, they are far more connected than the people, those who are on the white side of the world. And today I don't like X, so everybody who does not like X, they will start, making the attacks. Then you have got a state actors, which is nothing but a large countries, they attack others. China attack everyone, US attack China, India gets attacked from everywhere. And then there are state actors, those who sponsors, mercenaries to give the attacks. And finally the terror network, which is their religious, terrorism, which is growing up, intolerance is going up, right-wing, people are joining hands together to make things nonsense. They are the usual suspects. Unfortunately, insider has never been considered to be an actor actually. And I believe that's the biggest folly that I have seen in the last 10 years' time. Because any attack that happens, some stupid or some malicious user has opened the door for bigger threats. So we'll talk about insider threat today. We'll try to focus as much as possible, and we'll also try to find what is the potential solution around that. How can we really make a good program around that? Indian landscape is very simple. It's fastest growing, with 2 major announcements by Government of India: Digital India and Make in India. Make in India, without full computerizations, you are not going to be on the earth. And without Digital India, without digital component, you can't do anything. So the scope is very big. Spending is increasing. Almost 30,000 crore is planning to be earmarked for Digital India, which even 10% of that is spent on the security, will be huge money in the market. Let's see some of the major cyber security attacks, and we'll try to decipher how many of them were insiders. And I'll give a word of caution that insider is not always malicious. Even in stupid insider is insider, which leads to the attack to happen. So we have seen large-scale attack in the last 1.5 year time. The target was badly targeted. 110 million people got impacted. Then you have got Home Depot, eBay, Google, JP Morgan Chase. All together, we lost somewhere around half, almost 70% of the population of US. Critical personal identifiable information has been turned off. And they have fallen in the hand of the bad people. Interestingly, many of them were because of insiders. And we'll try to decipher how they were. But frankly speaking, I'm not worried much about the data theft and data security. Because as a person with a hacking career of 20-25 years of experience, I always feel that a determined intruder will intrude your house and will take the valuables, whatever you have, whatever security posturing you are having. Still determined intruder will enter your house. And that's a fait accompli, that's a situation we have to live in. A person who wants to make a suicide will inflict damage. Let's be prepared for it. So just preparing yourself against such attack is not sufficient. Number one, you have to have the capability to detect. You have to have the capability to detect on time. You should have capability to respond and recover from those misses. Data safety, possibly, we can recover. But it's not all about the data safety. What about the critical infrastructure attacks? The power grid systems. If some malicious users shut down the power and does something malicious which result into the large scale power cut across the country, the entire country will suffer. If the nuclear power plant is sabotaged, and we have seen that, that is happening. In Iran nuclear power plant, there was a malicious malware that has entered into the systems, and it's entered into the system not because these machines were connected, not at all. These machines were completely isolated. But the stupid user has taken some of the USB device which has got these malicious codes, got inserted into systems, and that result into some blast, and a few scientists, has been killed. And, I don't know who has killed them, what caused the blast, but the news which is available on the public domain suggests that potentially some malware has caused this, attacks. What happens with the weapon systems? A missile is fired. Instead of going to a direction, it comes back to your own home. Oxygen supply systems, which provides oxygen to millions of people lying in the ICUs. They are managed through SCADA systems. If someone malicious does something nonsense, which result into deprivations of oxygen for few seconds, can lead to mass scale killings. And that is what makes me worry. I have just, collected Fortune 500 hack story in Excel sheet. Possibly it will be available to you all, through some channels. This document is nothing but the, reiterations that how many attacks has happened in the past and how many of them has been caused by either malicious or the users, those who are insiders. Let's look into, some major insider attacks. And this report has been done based on a research study that has been carried out by Carnegie Mellon University, the CERT team, Computer Emergency Response Team of US. They have worked together and they have garnered huge amount of database. They have insider attack database of almost around 800 cases, which has resulted into overall losses of almost around $27 or $30 billion over a period of last 10 years, 8 years time. A major bank in New York incurred a loss of $2.5 million. Some malicious wire transfer fund has happened. Another one on the stock trading unit initiated thousands of transactions without customers' permission because he wanted to drive his own commissions, resulted in $650 million losses. It was greed and the privilege used. An insider ran an HR database queries to know how many people are getting how much money, am I getting enough money in the organization. It was basically a data harvesting attack. And definitely he was not supposed to know all these details, but he looked into that. It can be clubbed into three large activities: abnormal activity, abnormal volume of data movements, and third is the abuse of privilege. In all these three attacks, these are the three common criteria which has been found. In any insider threat, we can't forget Mr. Snowden. I'm sure each of our users, those who are on the other side of internet, I'm sure they are all aware about Snowden. Nothing great about it. NSA contractor who was not supposed to have a lot of access to information, he was able to use his insider connect and got access to as many as 22 passwords by using social engineering techniques. And it has never been reported that he was accessing 22 people's ID from the same IP address. And then he was going out of US. The most critical person who was having access to, I call it Kohinoor, the most precious metal or the most precious, gem on the earth. He was having access to it, and there was all possibility that he can take it away along with him. He left US for Hong Kong for a medical trip, and he was carrying 5 laptops with him. And interestingly, nobody questioned him, even though he was a top security clear guy, going for a medical treatment, why he required 5 laptops. And the entire story, the amount of money US government is spending in to comprehend how much loss has actually taken. It's not just reputation loss. Reputation loss has already taken place. But they should know what are the critical information he is having, and he can be passed on. And the amount of money US government has spent is $22 billion just to investigate the case. Think about, the amount of money spent on a small case. Insider, the story will become the story of 21st century. Rightful or wrongful reasons, but US has been exposed to the limit. And then, you have got a lot of story. David Ian Lee, he was working for a company in US which was dealing with critical military products. He has resigned, joined a company in China, and he exfiltrated all the trade secrets with him. They realized after 5 years, and after that the government was really nice enough, they could catch hold of him, and he has been sent to prison. But it took 5 years to know about it. The theft has happened. Loss is somewhere around $27 million. The money is a smaller part of it, but they were leaking information which was far too sensitive. It was about the next generation, cyber or airborne missile systems. Same story with Greg Chugg and Michael Mitchell. They are same story where the insider has taken off the data, exfiltrated the data without getting noticed. Even though non-disclosure agreement has been signed, which we sign every now and then, huge amount of file has been taken away. Luckily, he has been arrested. Not many cases the arrest happens in their life. Insiders, they remain there incipient for a long time before they are actually caught. Salin Javeri is a very small boy with the technical operations. When he was leaving the company, he thought that the company who is having the engine which has been developed by him, if he take it out, he'll be able to make millions. And he did that. Luckily, the company had a process in program in place for insider threat. They were able to correlate the information, and the person has been arrested in no time. So there was a good story that they had a program in place for insider threat against IP, intellectual property. So what happens, when insider activity happens? It can lead to damage of reputations, relationship between the countries, relationship between the companies. It can lead to the damage of the building and assets. It can disruptions to the processes and the procedures and IT systems altogether. System may not be accessible for a long time. It's a very interesting story, I like to capture it here. There was a company, a large company in the banking sector. One gentleman, he could not get promotion on time, and his salary hike was not sufficient. He left the company. When he was leaving the company, he did some small malicious change into the source code of a program, which he was having access to it. And he ensured that after 180 days, the systems start behaving in a different way. Absence of insider threat management program led to actually threat converting into vulnerabilities, and which has been exploited. And the company had widespread loss because of that, malfunctioning of the systems. So disruptions to the process and the IT systems. For corporate world, it is a commercial and financial impact. Sometimes it is for competitors' advantage. If I know a particular medicines, how it is made, what is the generic component in it, I can make it and I make money out of it. So many times for competitive advantage, it becomes challenges. For national security, yes, of course, this is a huge thing, and it is in place for years, as old as that civilization is in place. Denial or restriction of a key services, facilitations of criminal and terrorist activities, and compromising protectively marked information, which is known as highly classified information. And it can also lead to the loss of life, harm to life. So we'll try to decipher who are these insider threat actors and what is the risk attached to them. Unlike external attacks, where you are not aware about who the people are who is going to attack you, here the insider threat is someone, the actor is from within the organization. And it's very difficult to create a position of distrust, because prima facie and primarily, we as an Indian, we always feel that the person is trustworthy and we share everything. So let's try to put all the users, particularly the insider threat actors, into 4 buckets. You have a person who has just freshly joined from the college, who is not trained user, and he joined the company. Within 5 days he shared his password with 3 people because he is not aware about the company policy, and something malicious happens. So they fall within the bucket of untrained users. They are good people, not malicious people, but they have no visibility of the policy and procedures, and a lack of that leads to some attacks. There are some people that are trained users, absolutely trained, but they are stupid. They know what is phishing mail is all about, and every now and then the phishing mail comes, he clicks the link and he compromises his systems. Even though he knows it very well that clicking a mail which is coming from unknown sources can lead to compromise of system, but still he clicks. So he's a trained user, he knows phishing, but he's a stupid user because still he is not using his value judgments. And then you have got a stupid or maybe sometimes malicious. And the worst is the smart and malicious. Stupid and malicious, chances are there that you will be able to detect that attack. Because they are stupid, they will lose their footprints. And you will be able to use those footprints to know what exactly has went wrong. And then you have got a smart and malicious user. They know the reasons why they are doing it. They also know how to take away all the evidences related to that attack. They are mostly privileged users, and they actually get into the privileged user fields. And they do something malicious for various reasons. We'll try to decode that, what are the reasons why they becomes malicious. That will be a separate study. We'll do it together in this program. But primarily insider threat comes from these 4 actors. The actor number 1, untrained users and trained but stupid users, they are controllable. And a behavior correction programs based on NIST 850 documentations, which leads to awareness, then education, and the training can lead to betterment of those people. And we need to graduate from the do's and don'ts program, which is available in most of the organizations today on these components. Do's and don'ts programs are not sufficient. We need to use the war simulations and get them to behave in a particular fashion and create a report on that. And finally, we know who are the trained but stupid user, and we can do the behavior corrections for them. The smart and malicious, I think we have a long way to go. We'll try to uncover during the session. I think I have read more than 35 or 40 different type of definition of malicious insiders. But in my opinion, I think CERT Computer Emergency Response Team under Carnegie Mellon University, Pittsburgh. They've done a phenomenal job in insider threat. And my request to all of you, those who are part of this calls, do visit, CERT's website on insider threat. Huge amount of materials available. There are some materials are paid materials and some of them are freely available materials. Provides a huge amount of insights and provide you and clear actionables. While we'll try to summarize some of them today in our call, but they are the most authentic source of information which can be utilized for improving your insider threat management program. Current or former employees, contractor or business partners who has or had authorized access to an organization's network, systems or data, who has intentionally exceeded or misused the access in a manner that negatively affected the confidentiality, integrity or availability of organization's information or information systems. But it's a very brilliantly crafted word for malicious, because when it comes to really distinguishing who is the malicious versus who is the stupid user, I think these definitions helps you prepare yourself, and then you can take the cognizance on malicious insiders. The insider attacks are very powerful attacks, but largely remains unnoticed. Let's take some of the beautiful survey that has been done by FBI, US FBI I'm talking about. Insider attacks have now surpassed viruses as the most common cause of security incidents in the enterprise. The myth that insider is causing more number of attacks, and interestingly, number of antivirus related or malware related attacks are far lower than the number of attacks which is caused by insiders. And was a finding by FBI, so I trust this information is absolutely, because they are the one who handles all the cyber attacks on now and again time. 25% of respondents felt that over 40% of the financial losses were due to malicious actions by insiders. The US government or the business community across the US has lost $1.3 trillion. Almost 40% of them has been caused by insiders. And they are talking exclusive about malicious actions by insiders. It was not stupid insider alone, because that number will go up, multiple notch if you do the analysis on that. The Identity Theft Resource Center finding of 2011, the data breach due to insider theft was 13%. Other caused card skimming, data lost, or the move. And finally, the CERT Microsoft e-crime report, 67% of respondents reported that insider attacks are the most costly and damaging type of attacks. I'll be happy to hear a view from each one of as a user. If you have an insider threat management program in the company, do post a message in your message screen. I'll be happy to know that, because the more I interact with the people, the CIOs, the CTOs, and the CEOs of the company, more I get bogged down. They have very hardly anything which is known as insider threat management program. So again, this is a comparison of CERT database. They had around 700 different insider attacks, and they had tried to club into 5 buckets. IT sabotage, or it is theft or modification of financial gains, or theft or business advantage. So largely in 3 buckets, they tried to club the insider attacks, and the target system was used network systems or data, and personally identifiable information or customer information has been utilized. Theft for business advantage was more towards trade secrets, which is 71% customer info, 33%. Which means most of the attacks are happening at the IP layer. The intellectual property is more under attack than the customer info. Ladies and gentlemen, trust me with my statement. Many organizations, they are standing on their feet today because of the intellectual property they have. If that intellectual property becomes public, they can be closed overnight. So this brings to a very important thing. When you do the asset classifications, you have to clearly identify how much asset is actually valuable, and do we have a strategy in place to prevent any attacks on that particular piece of information or systems. Interestingly, for IT sabotage, the people have used unauthorized access, means they have escalated their privileges. But for financial, gains and modification, or for theft for business advantage, they were all authorized internal users. So I am having access to the safe of the bank, and I have got $1 million lying there, and I'll simply open the door and take the $1 million and walk away from the building. Authorized user. Interestingly, theft of data and theft of business advantage, both of them has happened during the normal working hours. IT sabotage has happened during, most of the cases happened during outside of normal working hours. For IT sabotage, if you are making a plan and if you have a system in place which works 24/7, you have to clearly identify which is the time window when a particular action need not be performed. If that time this action is performed, you should be in a position to stop that and detect that on a real-time basis. We need to have a process in place for that. But yet, those who are privileged users, they are doing all the theft during the normal working hours, and you are unable to detect them for longs. And that requires a different level of study, how to manage the insider threat using behavioral models. And we'll discuss about that at length as I proceed. Interestingly, recruitment and collusion. For IT sabotage, there was no collusion. They were not recruited by outsiders, they were insiders. But for data theft, half the people recruited from outside, they were responsible for theft. And 1/3 recruited for mod. And for IP, less than 1/4, which is 25%, were recruited by outsiders. You need to understand what is recruited by outsiders. So you are working for Microsoft, and you want to know about that. Google wants to know about what exactly they are doing, and they hire someone from there. I am using this name not to just say that they are engaged in such things, just treat that as an example. Name is not important. A person who is working for US government, part of them for the last 20 years time, they are hired by Chinese to be a mole within the organizations. They are the people recruited by outsiders. Interestingly, collision risk is minimal in IT sabotage. So none of the case was there where the collusion has been detected. Collusion is nothing but two people with high privilege right joining hand together do something nonsense. I have the privilege, or I have received the unauthorized privilege, and I use it on my own without any support from anybody else. But interestingly, for financial gain and theft, almost half of the colluded with another insiders. So maybe external people colluded with insiders, or one insider colluded with another insiders. And 2/3 colluded with outsider as well for theft. Almost for business advantage, theft, for half of them colluded at least one insider. So collusion risk has to be established for an effective insider threat management program. We'll discuss a lot more about that, collusion risk, but let's move forward to the next slide. A very, very interesting statistics by CERT. Insider attacks account for as much as 80% of all computer internet related crimes. 80%. is very high. We think most of the attacks are external attacks. We put our intrusion detection systems, we put our firewalls, we put intrusion prevention systems, we put our security incidents and event management tools with a singular focus that attacks would not happen from outside. Insider threat remain incipient for years together. 70% of the attack causing at least $20,000 of damage are the direct result of malicious insiders. So where the amount is more than $20,000, 70% of damage are happening because of insiders, and very specifically malicious insiders. We have discussed about the definition of malicious insiders. So they are not following that. I'm talking about a smart and malicious insiders. Majority of insiders are privileged users, and majority attacks are launched from remote machines. This was a very interesting thing. They were not using it from their own machines. They were using it from somebody else's machine, or remotely they were using these machines. Otherwise, and I can give you a very simple example. A person resigned, left the company. His ID has been totally blocked, but he was a member of a group admin from where his ID has not been taken off. He reached his home, went outside the building, left the company forever, and then did something malicious using that privilege. And by the time any attack has been detected, the system was down for more than 35 days time. The company incurred more than $600 million losses, and the reputation loss led to the closure of that company altogether. It was a Fortune 1000 company. Name is not important because that has been anonymized in most of the cases in my program. No negative publicity about the company who has suffered the loss. The biggest myth is there is no insider threat risk. And we know that 80% attacks are happening because of insiders. It's time to raise the head. There's no point putting in the ground and say there is no rain outside, there is no storm outside. One very interesting model which I'm going to talk about it. It's an adversarial model. Adversarial models are basically, who are my adversary? And then you start, making a design which is done through enterprise technology architecting or enterprise security architecting. But this adversarial models always ignores an insider, because adversarial models believe that trusted control base is free from threat, because you have got great firewalls, IDS, IPS, SIEM tools in place, and also you have got antivirus, host-based intrusion detection systems. Almost every product that is coming in the market you are having in your systems to prevent you from external attacks. And a myth is created that trusted control base is not having any threat vectors, and we ignore the person who is having the maximum right, the administrators, and the people, those who are having privileged rights on those trusted base. If they do something malicious, it will remain incipient, it will remain undetected. So in principle, insider threat violates these assumptions that trusted control base is free from threat. Trusted control base is on threat every day, and we need to recognize that if we really want to manage the menace of insider threat. One more myth, three more myths. Current systems are capable of countering insider threats because we have got IDS and IPS, we'll be able to control that. It's a myth. The reality is that it does not provide you anything against insiders. Secondly, insider threat is impossible to counter because of the insider's resource and the access permissions. They have a right. They also have a right to delete the logs. Insider attacks are a social or organizational issue which cannot be countered by technical means, which is absolutely wrong, because nobody becomes a bad guy in one fine day. Nobody will turn out to be a bad person overnight. Even if we read the story of Jekyll and Hyde, there was a pattern in him. He used to behave like a bad guy in the night in a particular time of the cycle. The rest of the time he used to behave in a nice manner? Is it possible to detect a Jekyll-Hyde personality in our real life? The answer is yes, and there are a lot of models which substantiate this thing. So it's a myth that need to be broken, that need to be understood. So we'll try to decode the behavior factor, because inside the threat, the biggest challenge that you have how do you distinguish the change in behavior? Because a gentleman will remain a gentleman so long he is in a public domain. Gentleman has to be a gentleman when he is in the private domain. Now, if you are talking about the private domain, is it possible to know the difference in the behavior in the public domain as well as private domain? And does it, company have rights, ethical rights or moral rights to manage and look into the private domains to find the behavioral change? Till yesterday, it was impossible. Thanks to social media, today it is very much possible to know about their personality traits. If we are able to correlate the information which is available on the public domain, which is huge, we should be able to, put a model which results into detections of such type of anomalous character within the person. Let's try to find out the reason why a good man becomes bad man. Because nobody is by birth a thief. Nobody is by birth a bad man. A child, when he starts his career, the day one, when he walks onto his feet or her feet, they are all great. They are gift of the God. But what leads to becoming a good man, becoming a bad man? If you are able to understand that piece, then possibly we'll be able to uncover more on the behavioral pattern which leads to collapse of a good man into the bad man. So I, put the entire focus on the behavior piece of it. And here's the word of caution. All the research work, the documentation that you are seeing, there is huge amount of information has been taken from public domain and also from very specific books. Many of the things do not belong to me. I have given references at the back of it. I try to, correlate as much as information as possible so that in 90-minute window, we should be in a position to understand the risk and also understand the threat landscape and potential solutions which can lead to having a good insider threat management program in your organizations. So let's talk about the personal factors in behavioral aspect of insider threats. So what can be motive for being a good boy turn out to be the bad boy? There are a variety of motives or personal situations that may increase the likelihood someone will spy against their employees. It can be greed or financial needs. A person is, living beyond means, and either he is greedy or he is in dire situation of financial needs and he is unable to generate the money from the rightful sources, or he is suffering from excessive debt because of medical problem, because of some XYZ reasons, and he is having overwhelming expenses which are unable to support, maybe for good reason or for bad reasons. He has become a drug addict. Or maybe he becomes a, he wants to take a revenge or anger. I have not been promoted. I didn't get the money on time. I did not get the wage. So I'll do something nonsense against the company. A lack of recognition, disagreements with the co-workers and managers, dissatisfaction with the job, or possibly he was going to be laid off. He came to know about it. So during the period, by the time the layoff will happen, he has already planted some backdoor into the system which will lead to the major collapse. And finally, ideology and identifications. A desire to help the underdog or particular cause. I don't like X country because of Y behavior. So anyone who is trying to hit the X country for Y behavior, I join that cause. Activists are falling within that. And many times insiders do become part of the activist. And finally, divided loyalty. I put my allegiance to another person more important than the company. I am a Chinese or I am Indian, I trust my countrymen, and I am working for American government, but I have got divided loyalty because still I want to support India. Maybe that can be the reason, They are all personal factors, and we need to honor that piece. These personal factors lead to disruptions, and if you recognize those things as an early warning systems, possibly you will be able to provide a risk rating to the employees, and finally start monitoring those movements by correlating information from other domains and find is it a good man turning into the bad man now. I want to be James Bond. I think that's it. And I'll do anything for doing that adventure. James Bond or has shut down a system in America, I'll do that. And I am having access to that system, so I'll shut down the systems because I want to be James Bond. Many times, extramarital affairs, gambling, fraud, which lead to blackmails, and the blackmailer will force you to do something pernicious, something bad, and you fall into that trap. Ego and self-image. I am above the rules. No rule of the company is good for me. I don't care about it. I am signing these documents because I have to have a job, but I don't like it. Often coupled with anger, revenge, or adventure or thrill. Sometimes ego and self-image can be reasons for turning a good boy into bad boy, or a good person turning into bad person. Ingratiations, I think that's a very critical component. Desire to please or win approval of someone who could benefit from insider information with expectation of return favor. I'm a Russian working in America for 35 years time, but I believe that my actions, if I support Putin by doing this, I'll be able to take his, take care of my motherland, and also I'll be able to take the benefit of this person. I want to change a job from X bank to Y bank. If I give some critical information to MD of another bank, which will lead to getting me a bigger job, possibly, I'll turn out to be a good person to the bad person. Compulsive and destructive behaviors, drug or alcohol abuse, or addictive behaviors. I like to, put a story here on drug or alcohol abuse. There was a large-scale case after 9/11. A lot of people were getting mails, not emails, it was normal mails, which was coming through the post with biological warfare component on it. And many people were getting it, and then it was detected, some people died. Everybody thought that, the person who is doing is a part of, terrorist network. 6 years they kept on talking about it, and only to realize that it was an insider. The person who was making that biological warfare components, he was a drug addict. He was having a sleep abuse. He was using overdose of, sleeping pills, which has led to his behavior. He used to behave like a jackal hiding in the night time. And he started, sending these mails. And he was having access to those components. He was an insider. So he was compulsive and destructive behavior because of drug or alcohol abuse. Family problems, marital conflict, separation from the loved ones, sometimes derails the person and he starts behaving in a fashion which is pernicious to the company or for the country. Let's talk about the organizational factors. It's not only the personal factors, sometimes the organizational factors. Because the organization where you spend 2/3 of your life, if that 2/3 of your life become negative, then potentially that situation may lead to become a good person into the bad person. The availability and ease of acquiring proprietary, classified or other protected materials, providing access to privilege to those who do not need it. Proprietary or classified information is not labeled as such, it is incorrectly labeled. It is confidential, but actually it is written public and it is lying in the public domain and people are freely sharing it. Is that someone may exit the facility or network system with proprietary, classified or protected materials. If the data exfiltrations are happening, how easily it is happening? Is it subjected to detections? Most of the company today, they have got data loss prevention systems in place. Whether it is at the end user device level or whether it is the network level. But are you in a position to understand that exfiltration of data is happening is for the rightful purpose or wrongful purpose? Do you have a correlation engine which provides you that sort of reports? So sometimes lax security posturing can lead to exfiltrations or misuse of the information systems, which can lead to mass scale damage or maybe lead to exfiltration of critical information or IP theft. The perception that security is lax and the consequences of threat are minimal or non-existent. Many times, the security is lax and the person knows that even if he does something mischievous, nobody has ever been punished. So at best, I'll get some warning. The time pressure, employee who are rushed may inadequately secure proprietary or protected materials or not fully consider the consequence of their actions. Employees are not trained on how to properly protect proprietary information. And the worst is the undefined policies regarding working from home or projects of a sensitive or proprietary nature. I have seen cases that a person sends a critical information overnight to his home email address because he does not have remote access, and the mail has actually entered into the Gmail or Hotmail or some public domain. Even if you detect it, the answer is that I was working on this project overnight, it was time critical, and even the manager will come to his or her rescue. But actually data filtration has already happened. Knowing that organizational individual factors, can we classify that behavioral indicators that who can be potentially a bad person? Who is potentially going to do something malicious? Is it that a bad man, good man turn out to a bad man without giving you any clue of it? We'll try to capture some of the thought process around behavioral indicators. Very simple case, without need for authorization, takes proprietary and other material home via documents, thumb drives, computer disks, emails, inappropriately seeks or obtain property, proprietary or classified information of subject not related to their work and duties. He is sending mails, large mails, large attachments, 5 MB, 10 MB attachment, while in the last 4 years he has never sent it. But last 10 days he is sending on a continual basis. Unnecessarily copies materials, especially if it is proprietary or classified. Doing remote access to the computer network while on vacation, sick leave or other odd times, mid in the night. It was never required. Suddenly, his access to remote access has increased multiple folds. Disregards company computer policies or installing personal software or hardware, accessing restricted websites, conducting unauthorized searches or download confidential information. They are all potentially behavioral indicators. Now a person was supposed to work between 10 to 5, suddenly he starts working mid in the night, and there is no way to put it on record that he is working on the weekends. Suddenly the notable enthusiasm has been for overtime work, weekend work or unusual schedules when clandestine activity could be more easily conducted. These organizations have some sensor nodes which provide these behavioral indicators which can lead to detection of insiders before the insider threat actually happens. The first one is more about the malicious people, those who are working for another country, and the cases of spionage. But I think it is worth mentioning it. There was a case, Mitchell or Greg Chan War case, which I talked about at the beginning. The person was a Chinese origin. He was working for a very secret program for American defense installations. The team was working for a next generation warfare ships. It was absolutely sensitive components. And he was visiting China for the last 4 years more often than earlier time. Earlier he used to visit only once or twice, in worst case twice, or sometime next 2 years no visits. Suddenly he is visiting every month and going on a continuous basis to educational institutions to give some programs. And finally it has been noticed that actually in the education programs, when he was going to colleges to give presentation, actually he was meeting only the intelligence people and submitting all the documents that he was carrying with him. Short trips to foreign countries for unexplained or strange regions, unexplained affluence. Suddenly the person has purchased BMW while he cannot afford to buy one Maruti car, living beyond means. Engage in suspicious personal contacts, such as with competitors. The person is continuously sending official mails to some people, those who are actually competitors. Overwhelmed with the life cries and career disappointments. Clearly, he's completely lie low. His behavior is different. He is absolutely disappointed person. Sometimes the person shows unusual interest in the personal life of co-workers, asks inappropriate questions regarding finances or relationships. Anyway, Indians, you may not find that these things are very common in India, but if you do this behavior in US, it is known as inappropriate questions. Here we don't care what's the name of your mother, it's a very simple thing. We answer, only we end up giving a lot of personal information on the social media. Concerned that they are being investigated, leave straps to detect searches of their work area at home, searches for listening devices or cameras. Many people exhibit some or all of the above to a varying degree. However, most people will not cross the line and commit a crime. The crime will happen on one fine day, but they leave the traces before they commit the crime. Behavioral indicators are the key to success. How to capture those components, those changes in behavior. Looks very weird, looks very difficult. Sometimes it looks breaching the privacy, but they have got all material informations for deciding who is a good guy turning into bad guy, potential bad guys. So let's talk about, how the behavior can be decoded. It's put into two buckets, individual vulnerabilities and organizational vulnerabilities. So you are having individual challenges. Your marital life is in shambles. You are living beyond means because you have got two families to support and you don't have enough money. Organizational vulnerability is that a great guy, he has not been given promotion and he is a person who is a privileged access. So it can be personality related, it can be life events, it can be personal circumstances, or it can be management culture, organizational climate, or security culture. And then the disaffections become prevalent. Now this person can turn out to be a bad guy if disaffection has really affected him. What he is needing is a specific triggers. Now he knows that I am not going to get promotion and somebody from a competitive organization comes to him, come to my house, I'll give you a new job, give me some more information about the company, specific triggers. and suddenly he changes allegiance. It can be anything. It can be negative life events. It is a direct approach, negative work events or world events. Let's talk about North Korea recent Sony attack case. I think that's a very material case, and there is a lot of contradictory statement whether it was attacked by North Koreans or whether it has been done by someone within the Sony. So Sony was able to influence the entire government machinery that it was North Korea who has done the attack. The more I research on the public domain information which is available, more I find proximity to insider threat. Because there was a password file which was internally in the organization, and that password file has been saved by a password file in one end user device. If you are having a Kohinoor and you say this is Kohinoor and this is the place, and you make a public announcement that there is where the Kohinoor is lying, potentially you are inviting the troubles. There is a concept, crime prevention through environment and design. You should design the environment in such a way that you don't feel like committing a crime. But if you create a design which leads to crime, then potentially you are actually inviting the troubles. While only history can tell what went wrong in case of Sony, but I will keep on disagreeing with that because I see that is the case of insider attack. Only time will come and tell it. So insider threat, what are the opportunities? How the insider threat can really become a threat. One of the reasons can be very simple: inadequate personal security measures. The people are not being trained, they are not being groomed for the new attacks. A lot of phishing attacks are happening on the voice phishing. A lot of phishing attacks are happening, and we do not have a program to really correct the behavior of individuals. So sometimes even the most smart guys will make a click with the privileged access and will compromise the entire systems. The advanced persistent threat, which has been perceived that somebody has put malicious Trojan or systems or malwares into the systems, but actually it was all because of the hash value for the product which was being deployed, the software which was being deployed into the entire internal network has never been checked by the management team. There was no enterprise architecting, road mapping, and classification approach for deploying the individual applications into the various systems, and that led to the compromise of the systems, and they were all advanced persistent threat. The Microsoft Office systems, which have been deployed in many of the diplomatic buildings, consulate offices across the globe, they were having bugs. They were having backdoors which have been created exclusively for compromising the internal systems. But they have been put into the systems by the internals without knowing the implication of it, and not without following the rightful systems where the hash value checking should have been the prerequisite before a deployment of software. So it was not malicious insiders, but I will call it stupid insiders. And sometimes I'll also call it there was no proper policies and practices in place which really built security by design. Lack of a strong security culture is as well responsible for low compliance with security measures and easier to manipulate. Let's see what the, again trying to decode the behavior concern and how to detect them. It can be individual vulnerabilities. The person has not been promoted. He has been put into performance monitoring program for 6 month time. He has not been paid bonuses for that period. His promotion has been held up. Changes in lifestyle and behavior. Suddenly the person has become rich. A person who cannot take care of his day-to-day requirements suddenly, coming in a software-driven car. Some person who is using systems in a time when he was not supposed to work and not being reported properly. And somebody is trying to, look into the information which he is not supposed to have direct access to it. A very simple example in the banking case. So X bank is maintaining the account of a celebrity, maybe Michael Jackson, and I want to say how much money is there in the account. I have no reasons to, but I have authority to do that. Suspicious behavior. And greater the number of indicators present, greater the risk. And some indicator groups are definitely more concerned combination and clusters. So this behavior, threat and concerns, if we are able to decode it correctly, and if we can put these behaviors into a bucket of 20, 30 or 100 parameters and give a risk rating of 0, 1 to each one of them, then a large organization of 200,000 people or 300,000 people, you are actually, creating a bucket where you are able to find high-risk associates versus low-risk associates. If you are having a large organizations with a large number of people working in an organization, it is impossible to do man-to-man marking. You can't monitor each one of them because return on investment cannot be justified for man-to-man monitoring. But if I have a behavior concern and we have parameterized it, if we have done the risk rating against each one of those parameters, and those who are with high-risk parameters can be clubbed, and a handful of bad people can be subjected to man-to-man marking, and not just detecting the attack after the insider threat has happened, rather preactively preempting the attacks and collecting enough evidence of attack before the attack has actually materialized. The correlating these informations which is coming from various sources, it can come from the structured data or it can come from unstructured data. But it gives you a very clear picture. There is something around here, something scrupulous, something anomalous is happening in the systems, and then you put them under subjected monitorings. This is a very, small list based on the discussion we had so far. We can have some disgruntled employees. We can have employees who is not ready to accept the feedback. A person whose anger management issues are there suddenly bursts into anger. A person who is not ready to engage, not ready to talk, not ready to take the feedback. Something is cooking within. There are some people disregard the authority. I said, who you are? I am authorized to enter the data centers. I have got the permit. He is entering the data center late in the night. He has no reason to be there, but he will disregard the authority and will enter. Suddenly performance changes happen. Suddenly he has become excellent performer. He is working 18-hour day. Till yesterday he was not ready to work even 7 hours. It's anomalous behavior. Stress. Many times you can see the face of the people and see the stress. A person visiting the websites and looking into, medicines for stress, going to a site for psychological, corrections with the doctors, taking online, approvals, can be indicated for detecting potentially stressed employees. Confrontational behaviors. many a time the employee will become confrontational. Why didn't you swipe your card? And he will shout at you and say, what is the big deal? I didn't do it today. But possibly he was doing it today to avoid the detection that he has entered the building. Self-centeredness.
What?
The employee disregards needs or wishes of others, concerned primarily with own interest and welfare, not bothered about anything else. I know a case, I investigated myself. So there was a team of around 200 people. They are working on the same project, and there were 50-50 people team being led by 2 managers. So now performance of manager X was not good. Manager Y was performing very well. Interestingly, a finance guy, he could access the system and change the performance parameter of Y team. And he did it so smartly, there was no trace of it actually. Absolutely there was no trace. Many times it happens. Lack of dependability. Many times you give a task to someone and he is not showing dependable. He is showing a behavior of, withdrawalness. And uncalled for absenteeism. And a word of caution, many times people start working on the weekends. The behavior is, a very critical component. And these are the indicators. These are the indicators. If you capture it correctly, possibly you will be able to understand the behavior between the pattern changes between the good man into bad man or good woman into bad woman. Very easily you can, able to track it. And there are multiple cases, the story, success story, I can share with you on some other good time. So these are the, 10 bucket. If you take 10, in my own design, I have worked on insider threat. It's my almost 11 or 12 years of working on insider threat. I worked out somewhere around 185 or 200 parameters which define the psychosocial risk. Some of them I captured it for you so that becomes easily understood. The psychological model or behavioral indicators are critical in understanding when a good person can turn out to a bad person before actual incident happens. So there are multiple modeling methods are there which is available, and many of them are available in the public domain, and there are some recommended document. I have shared the list at the end of the document. Possibly some of you want to take up this opportunity to know more about insider threat. I think that will be good to hone your skill on that and create your own design model. These models are very simple models. You can create your own models. It does not require to be replicated the same models. But some of the interesting model which is very simple, very easy to understand. We have already discussed about the psychological model behavior indicators. Then another model which is known as Bayesian models, which uses predictions of expert judgments. And then you have got counting models for prediction of expert judgment. And we can also use linear regression models, predictions for expert judgment. And last but not the least, most important one is nonlinear artificial neural network models, which is very critical, which has the component of both machine learning, structured data, unstructured data, and uses this expert judgment to build a plans and predict the behavior of individuals and predict precisely who is the bad guy who is the mole within the organization. It's a very powerful tool. Not many such tools are available in the market. I have tried to capture some of the tools at the end of the project, my presentation. But some of the tools are deployed, but we don't use them effectively. Some of the tools are definitely there. We have got intrusion detection systems. We have got intrusion prevention systems. We have the rules attached to it. We also know what are the rules are being broken on a day-to-day basis. Those informations can be a very good behavior indicators and can lead to detections of insider threat. A very simple example, the sharing of the passwords I can share with each one of you. In a large organization, when you enter an office, you have to physically enter the office by swiping some biometric card or some chip cards. Before you enter your own cabin, you swipe the card 3 times, and then you enter the office. There is a very well laid out, timing taken every day. If you have a 30 days data or 90 days of data, you will come to know what is the pattern for entering, how much time, nanosecond that you take every day to reach from one place to another place, and then you can create a graph around that. One fine morning, the person has not swiped any one of the 3 places before entering the room, and he logs into the systems. The chances are he tailgated, it is anomalous behavior, or he has shared the passwords. You can't be guarantee that the person has shared the passwords. You have to use other parameter as well. But it's a very simple trick through which you can correlate the information and predict that the behavior anomalous, not necessarily risky behavior, but anomalous behavior. And suppose a person has got a habit of tailgating every day. He's not swiping 3 times while he has got 3 gets. If the information is correlated, you will be able to find a behavior of a person who is actually showing a behavior of a person who breaches the security policy every day. He does not have concern for that. Then you can do the behavior correction of those people by giving them letter of warning, by using typical Chanakya's ways of Sam, Dam, Dandved, methods, and you can improve the behavior of users. We'll try to explore solutions and best practices, what is available in the market today, and try to see how we can really decode the myth and how we can detect insider threat and how we can set up insider threat management program within the organizations to detect such attacks in far more superior way, far more quicker and proactive way to detect a threat. The very important thing in any control or security aspects that how big is your threat surface area. Threat surface area can be defined in a very simple term. If you are playing a dartboard and you have got 10 feet by 10 foot wall is your dartboard. If you hit anywhere and you get a bounty of $100,000, the threat surface area is so big that every time you hit, it will hit the wall. Now, if you reduce the threat surface area, that you can only get a bounty of $100,000 only when you hit the point, the central point. In that case, chances of getting hit is less. But mind it, those who are trained to hit like that, they will still be able to hit you. So, 2 things that we need to do. First, we have to reduce the threat surface area so that only no normal intruder is able to enter your house. It's almost like putting a simple lock in your house and you get the assurance that nobody will enter the house. Unfortunately, the lock picker, the smart guy who knows how to open the lock, will take a few seconds to open the lock. But still you go and enjoy your weekend on a nice sun bath at the beach in Goa, and 2 days your house is absolutely unprotected and lock picker will come and open the house immediately. Now the second component is the trusted control base. What is the most critical asset that you have which can lead to major number of insider threats? So you have to reduce the entire threat surface area for that. So suppose if 100 people are there in the company and everybody is having administrative right, then basically your trusted control base is almost 100%. Any one of them can inflict the damage. Now if you want to reduce that area, then you have to find out who is the only 2 people, those who need to be the administrator, rest of them will not do the administration, they will not have the administrative rights. So basically you squeeze the trusted control base and that lead to possible insider attacks to the minimal level. Now, suppose if a safe can be opened by one person where all the $1 million is lying, then basically, you are opening a door for insiders to take away the money on its own without any detection on the same time, because he is the one who is having the key of the safe. Now, suppose on the same safe you have got two persons and the two keys, which is managed by two different people. Then basically you are reducing the insider threat of act alone. Force collision, will always happen. You can't predict it. But you are basically reducing the threat surface area to the minuscule. So question trust assumptions made in computing system. Treat the LAN like the WAN. Don't believe the person inside the LAN will not inflict the pain to you. They are equally capable and far more capable to inflicting the pain to you, and treat them also as they are a part of the wide area network, like an external intruder. Some of the solutions which is being utilized today, how to find a right candidate. Now let's check the challenge of Indian context. We are doing pre-hire screening of employees. That's almost every organization is doing that. But what does that mean? If I have committed a crime in a place where I do not reside, there is no centralized database of crime record which is available to any screening company to check about the antecedent of the person. So if I am living in Worli in Mumbai, and if I have done a crime in Northeast in Nagaland, I don't think anybody will go visit them, and the crime will remain undiscovered, and a bad guy will enter into your system. So the pre-hire screenings are the challenges. The second challenge is that you are hiring 15,000 people in a year precisely. Now this 15,000 hire, every hire, pre-hire check is a cost to the company. Now suppose 3,000 rupees is hired, paid for a company to check their antecedents. So 15,000 into 3,000 you are spending. But what is the guarantee the pre-hire company has actually done the testing of the pre-hire correctly? What is the ways and means of ensuring that they are hiring and screening is 100% fail-proof? I think this is a question I leave it to you to decide how to go and check the efficacy and efficiency of this screening organization. Training education is a very critical component, but I have observed that most of the organizations are having a good training program, particularly in IT-enabled services, particularly in the banking services. They have got neatly do's and don'ts program. But still, the phishing mails and clicking on those phishing mails is a daily affair. And it becomes very difficult to really train the people by just giving do's and don'ts. We need to think beyond do's and don'ts. We need to use some simulation tools. There are a lot of good simulation tools are there to do the attacks the way the attackers does, and utilize those spaces for improving your security posturings. Very simple things, disabling access to the appropriate times. So don't disable the access of individuals. Disable all access at appropriate time. When I say all access, when the group access need to be disabled for them if they are having administrative access. Separation of duty and list privileges, strict password, account management policies, using automated tools. Policy-based solutions are hard to enforce, but they involve the human factors. And human is definitely the weakest link in the security. So procedural solution in the biggest challenge is that how to tap the behavior of individuals. Because everything else can be taken for a ride in a second. Human behavior will change, and suddenly a good guy will turn into a bad guy. What are the technical solution challenges? Now, there is no right away available to predict the behavior of individual. There is still no good solutions available in the market. There are some good solutions that are available, but not very effective. It's very difficult to get access to lot of logs which everybody creates across the life on a day-to-day basis. The log monitoring might be into place in some organization, but what is the purpose of those log monitoring? Is it aimed at checking the insider threat? If the answer in your company is yes, then you are already ahead of the curve. But mostly these logs are to know the anomaly of the systems, why system is not behaving correctly, how many machines are not being patched correctly, how many machines are not having antivirus. It never checks why the antivirus has not been deployed to the company, the particular systems, why the host intrusion detection system has failed to perform in a particular machines, why the person who is using the firewalls, monitoring for management, if he does any changes which has not been authorized by the rightful channels, those logs are never correlated on a real-time basis to predict any anomalous behavior. And inherently complex insider are trusted, and there are a lot of ethical and legal issues. Can we monitor every component of the individuals? Can you put a video camera in a public domain where whatever you are doing is being monitored? The answer is no. Can we monitor your, whatever you are typing in your system on a daily basis? The answer is no. But if you have a regions, the law permits you to do the selective targeted monitoring. But in a large organization, if you have got 100,000 people in your organization, or if you are having 200,000 people in your organization, you can't monitor all of them. Selected monitoring will never be permitted by the law for 200,000 people. But if you have a risk prioritization systems where you are able to prioritize the risk that who is the most potential insiders within your organizations, and you have got effective risk prioritization systems into place which is not having inherent follies, and then a selected persons or people or the person, man or woman is subjected to monitoring, then it is allowed by the corporate laws and the companies, countries, privacy legislations. But before that, prerequisite that do you have a sufficient insider threat management program which is able to correlate the informations, do the risk rating for individuals, and finally put them under the one-to-one monitoring and detect the attacks before the attack actually infringe the loss to the company, loss to the country, loss to the society. With the advent of big data, unstructured data analytics, it is very much possible to analyze the anomalous behavior of individuals, but we need to make a good business case why insider threat is very important and start showing the result that this predictive modeling and analytics leads to successful component. I'm not going to narrate these attack things because they are all models. We'll go to the last slide. Yeah, so we'll just try to go to the best practices. Let me quickly summarize in next 5-minute time what are the things that we can do as an organizations to manage the insider threats. Is the minimum thing that we can do. There's no limit to the maximum depending upon the risk appetite and how much risk is too much risk and how much risk is too much less. Can be the critical criteria for deciding a predictive modeling. Consider threat from insider. That is very important. Don't put your head in the ground like an ostrich and say there is no threat. Clearly document and consistently enforce policies and controls. You should have a measurement criteria into place that how many times security breaches happen. You should have a dashboards in place. You have to have a scorecard in place which clearly says how many times the policies are being broken by individuals. And do you have a corrective actions planned against those individuals? Incorporate insider threat awareness into periodic security training for all employees. Don't make it, there is a difference between awareness, training and education. We have to move away from awareness to training, because training not only make you aware about the threat but also changes your behavior. Because even if I have been trained on the phishing mails, still I have a tendency to go and click it. That correction is required through training. Beginning with the hiring process, monitor and respond to suspicious and disruptive behavior. During the first 4 months of the hiring of a person, you will come to know about the behavior. Have a good HR system in place where these behaviors are subjected to, put during the probation, how the behaviors can lead to predicting the behavior of that individual down the line. Anticipate and manage negative issues in the work environment. Most important, know your assets. Which asset is the most critical assets, and who are the people who have access to it, and how bad people can have access to it, how to trace that if anybody bad people have ever tried to touch that asset, even they have not taken it away, try to read the asset. Many times we look into who has accessed it, we don't look into how many people tried to accessing it but they could not access. Look into those asset evaluation as well. Implement a strict password and account management policy and practices, enforce separation of duties and list privileges. These are all driven by standards, driven by laws. Define explicit security agreement between the cloud services, especially access restriction and monitoring capabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all going towards clouds. It is your intranet and extranet is merging. So if something happens by the cloud administrator, you will have no control on it. You will never come to know what went wrong with your systems, what theft has been happened by administrator of the cloud. Have the structuration and monitoring capabilities into place, otherwise a loss will happen and you will never come to know about it. Institute stringent access control monitoring policies, institutionalize system change controls. If a firewall rule set has been changed, there has to be a change control ticket for that, and a clear correlation techniques should be put into place so that if anything malicious is happening without any change control authorization, you should be able to detect in real-time basis. Use log correlation engine, security event, information management system to log, monitor and audit employee actions. Unfortunately in SIEM tool, currently we don't monitor and audit employee actions. We use it, what is the external threats, we don't use it in employee actions. Monitor and control remote access from all endpoints including mobile devices. Don't leave it to chance, but everybody with the coming into the picture, this monitoring will pave the way to an internal people accessing from the outside world and inflicting the pain to the organization. Develop a comprehensive employee termination procedures. It should be very well defined, and during the time, 90% data breach has happened by the employee that happens during the time of termination, the 2 months notice period. Put the control monitoring systems with high risk assigned to those employees. If they are doing data, large data being sent out, stop those data. You should have the rules in place at the IDS level or maybe at the gateway layer. Implement secure backup and recovery process. Many times the malicious insider not only damage your current system but also the backup system, so recovery becomes impossible. Clearly mandate difference with the backup. Those who have access to the primary system should not have any access to the backup system. And last but not the least, formalize insider threat management program. Establish a baseline of normal network device behavior attached to individual, and be especially vigilant regarding social media. Close the doors for unauthorized data exfiltrations. If anything, if somebody is sending 50 MB of data without any reason, if it is the first time, the data should not go outside the thing. We should develop that rule set at the gateway layer where we should be able to stop it, ask the questions. And if nothing works, we have our own secure matrix. The company I belong to, we have got control matrix, a proprietary patented product with us, insider threat framework, which basically a behavior as well as it uses structured as well as unstructured log aggregation analytics framework within, which help predict the behavior of user using risk rating based systems, algorithms, and proactively detecting, preventing insider threat before it strikes you. With that, thank you so much for hearing to me for almost 1 hour 35 minutes uninterrupted. look forward for your questions. Thank you so much. One line I just want to put once again, I think this philosophy is very important. Don't prepare and prevent, because determine intruder will enter. So you should have the capability to detect. And you have to have the capability, if the detection has happened, theft has happened, malicious thing has happened, you should have the capability to respond and recover. Unfortunately, in the security world and technology world, we put all our effort on prepare and prevent, not on detect, respond, and recover. A lot of reference material which will be available to you down the line. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Now we have questions, sir.
How to assess the cyber capability of an organization? I think there are a lot of standards are there. We talk about ISO 27001, talk about ISO 31000, we talk about BS 25999, talk about COVID, we talk about ITL. So there are a plethora of programs. Then you have got specific domain specific compliance programs like HIPAA programs. They have got their own technical methods of capabilities. Then you have got PCI DSS. All these standards are fantastic, but they also have got inherent challenges. In my opinion, this is absolutely a personal opinion, not to. I think we should test it against. There is a document, National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, 800 series. There is a document which is known as 53. NIST 853 is the right document to test the capability for cyber readiness. And if you want to test, you are ready for it, for cyber capability, I think NIST 853 is the best because it encompasses all the standards that I have seen so far. So thank you, Kumut, for asking these questions. I think how to approach the remediations, I think that's a very difficult question, but let me try to answer it for you. Remediation in today's world, particularly in zero-day cases, are very difficult. And there is hardly any product in the market space which uses machine learning capability to detect and protect you against attack on a real-time basis. So zero-day will remain a zero-day effort. We have seen that there is a timeline which normal organizations takes to remediate a particular threat. It takes around 180 days time on an average, which is very high. We have to bring it down to less than 30 days time. How you will do it is very difficult depending upon the nature of organization you have, the nature of legacy system that you have. But it needs to be curtailed to 30 days time. And effectively, at least known vulnerability, you should be able to patch it. Unknown vulnerability, I think you should have your own threat analytics program. You should be watchful about that, the movement in the market. You should have the security intelligence report coming from various things and try to improvise your, IDS and IPS on a continual basis. In my opinion, in IDS, IPS rule sets, if you are changing in every third day, then I think you are meeting the basic baselines. If you are doing the changes of rule sets in 30 days or 45 days time, then possibly, you need to improve your remediation program. Next question is from Mr. Murli Thangam. What do you do when a personal data is compromised? How to stop? And how to save you from not being misused? If your personal data has already been compromised, you need to report that. In India, that reporting mechanism is not very effective. But if you are in US, you can report it to your banks, where you are having the accounts, and then it gets reported everywhere. And if the data loss has happened at your end, then you have to pay the charges for your credit rating monitorings. It has been, data theft has happened by the company, then they are responsible and accountable for going. Unfortunately, we do not have a security breach act like 1386 of California and India. I wish we have such act which forces the company to do the monitoring for individuals. Let's hope with the change of guard and change of government, things will change. Next question is from Satya Prav Kathuria. Okay, I think nothing. Back now, thanks. How to secure a crowd? Again, this question is from Murli Thangam. Thank you so much, Murli, for asking these questions. I think the biggest challenge that anyone is going to face is from the cloud, because so long the entire data center was in your purview and your monitoring. At least you had control on what is going on. If some system has tripped, you know that it has tripped. In case of cloud, it will be very difficult to do that. So when you are going to a cloud, I think there are a lot of good effort has taken from Cloud Security Alliance. A lot of checklist has been done, a lot of documentation has been created. NIST has also created one documentation 127, which is a good cloud management documentations standards. It has got some baseline defined as well. But put one line into your program that do they have insider threat management program, and take a documented copy as a part of that requirement. Because if the cloud, they don't have insider threat management program, I think that is the biggest threat that you have there. It's not that perimeter security is a challenge there, because most of the cloud, they are rich companies, they are big companies, and they are managing thousands of customers, so they are having all the perimeter control, whatever is required in the market. Whatever is available in the market, everything is there. But if something happens malicious by insider within the cloud, then it will be very difficult to find that out. I think last question is from Kumud. Thank you very much for your thanks. Look forward for connecting sometime. Umesh Kumar has asked a question, is any cyber test available in the market? I think NIST 853, we do substantial testings on that. If you are looking for a specific, NIST 853 testings, possibly we can do it. We use a red team mechanism, red team, capabilities to test the entire NIST programs. It is fully automated, and it also takes care of the policy, procedures, and standards and baseline, all three together. So, only difference between the normal security testers and the red team consultants is that red team consultant do not go and check the policy. They check the efficacy of the policy using a null hypothesis. So we use null hypothesis to check whether the policy itself is adequate or not before go the testing. And there are other companies, some of the big four, they talk about, NIST 853 testing capabilities. Maybe, you can look for them as well. With that, I don't have any question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Venkateshwar, for your valuable time, and thank you everyone for your participation. We will upload the presentation and recorded link into MyCI shortly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, team. Look forward to connecting. You have my email ID. Thank you very much for being patient.
Thank you so much, sir. Very nice, sir. Thank you so much for coming here. And